We come to the start of episode 2, where Hae-gang says to In-sik, "Alright, how can we make this money?" In-sik says, "To do that, you'll have to become the manager or the president of the apartment complex, because there are only 2 people who can manage the repair reserve fund. When I was coming up here in the lift, I saw a poster. There's going to be an election in your building soon, for president. You can run in that election. You don't have to do anything. Just keep doing volunteer work." Then they actually go into the elevator, and Hae-gang sees that he was telling the truth. They spend the whole night thinking about what they should do. Morning comes. Hae-gang says, "Fine. Whatever happens, we'll bring back that money and get Yong-man out of jail." But Kyung-nam says, "This can't be true. He could just be lying." But In-sik says, "I'm telling the truth. You can call and ask." Hae-gang says, "Where?" In-sik says, "At the management office." Then we see them make the call. Yoon-sik answers the call and says, "Who's speaking?" Hae-gang had said, "I'm a resident. I want to ask, how much money is in the long-term repair reserve fund?" However, Yoon-sik first talks to Ha-young and says, "There's a resident asking all this." Ha-young says, "Fine, go ahead and tell him." As soon as Yoon-sik looks it up and says that the money is around 18 billion, they're all left stunned. Yoon-sik wants to go on and explain where this money is used, but Hae-gang has already hung up the phone. He says to them, "I told you before, they have a huge amount of money." Big Brother, who had been eating earlier, slaps him and says, "Now you're the most junior one here. Go make me a hot coffee and bring it." After thinking, Hae-gang says, "Whatever happens, this money is going to be ours." We move to outside an apartment building where some mothers are with their children. There we see Mina. Her children are planting saplings. All the women start saying to Mina, "You're a very good person. Where did this idea come to you from? This is real education." But just then, Suk-jin comes here and says to them, "What nonsense is all this you're doing? Did you get permission from the residents for this?" She starts arguing with them and tells them to remove the plants, but the mothers don't do it. Then Suk-jin throws all the plants out of there. In the next scene, we see the women at a restaurant. They talk about Suk-jin. Who is she? One woman says, "She's a mysterious woman." Another says, "I've heard that she's a beauty queen." The women start saying to Mina, "You're a very good person. There's going to be a presidential election for our building soon, and you should take part in it. By the way, who is our current president? We don't even know that." Then they actually meet the president. His name is Gang-woon. Young-jae comes to meet him. He tells him what the women did outside today and how there was an argument over the plants. Gang-woon says, "Fine. Is there anything else?" Young-jae says, "Ha-young has refused to do the work. Now she can't do it." In the next scene, we see Gang-woon meet Ha-young and say, "I heard your sister has become a lawyer. Congratulations for that." Ha-young says, "Young-jae must have talked to you, but I can't do this work anymore. If you want, I can resign." Gang-woon starts saying, "You used to take some gifts for your sister, some clothes and so on. If she found out where that money came from, how would she feel?" Then he laughs and says, "I'm only joking. By the way, you can do one thing. Keep working in my office until the end." We see Hae-gang's colleagues who were watching a news report about how a man had embezzled the long-term repair reserve fund and run off with the money. However, no one knew who he was. In-sik says, "This news is about me," but they couldn't figure out that it's me. Kyung-nam says, "What about the residents there? Don't they care about the money?" In-sik denies it and says, "Everyone is busy in their own life, and anyway, only a little money is taken from them, so they don't care about it." Hae-gang starts saying, "Fine, tell us how all this works." Then he takes their class and explains what the long-term repair reserve fund is. Some money is collected from every resident and pooled so that it can be used for the apartment's maintenance. Hae-gang starts saying, "We saw the news. You worked for more than 5 years to make 4 billion, but I only have 3 months. In-sik says, "No problem. Just become president once, and after that, everything will fall into place." In the next scene, we see Hae-gang come to the jail to meet Yong-man and tell him, "Don't worry, I've gotten work. I'll get you out of jail soon." But Yong-man says, "Don't go and do anything wrong on my account." But Hae-gang says, "I won't kill anyone. This work is very good, and you told me before that I should start a new life. Now I'm going to do exactly that." As he was heading home, on the way he looks at the building. He recalls a scene from the past, what had happened, how he had come to meet Yong-man. Yong-man says, "I heard that your father has died." Yong-man has the document about the debt owed by his father. He burns it and says, "There's no need for this now, and you can go too." But Hae-gang had said, "Boss, I want to work for you. I'll stay right here." In the next scene, we see Hae-gang coming into his apartment, but he sees a scene unfolding ahead. There's a man who parks his car right in the middle of the road and says, "I won't let anyone pass." The residents were arguing with him and telling him to move aside, but it's no use. But then Hae-gang comes along in his car and rams the man's car. The man shouts and says, "What have you done? Do you even know how expensive this is and what brand it is?" But Hae-gang says, "It would have been better if you'd just parked the car in the first place. There's no use doing all this now." The man lies down on the ground and says, "I won't let anyone pass." But then we see Chung-won come here. He scratches the man's car. The man shouts and says, "What are you doing?" Chung-won starts saying, "Whatever I've done to your car, I'll pay for it. But what you've done to the residents here, you'll have to pay for that too. I'll file a case against you for it. I have several experienced lawyers." The man gets scared and says nothing. Chung-won then comes up to Hae-gang. He tells him who he is. "This happened to your car, we'll pay for it." But Hae-gang says, "I don't need anything." But Chung-won insists. Then he shakes his hand and tells him who he is. Hae-gang gives his own introduction as well. In the next scene, we see Hari, who talks to Yong-ju. She tells her what happened to her when she went to the wedding, that he even kissed her. Though it wasn't any proper kiss. But after hearing this, Yong-ju starts and says, "You did get the money, didn't you? That's the big thing. By the way, haven't you told your sister that you haven't become a lawyer?" She says no. Yong-ju says again, "You'll have to tell her before things get out of hand." Meanwhile, we see Ha-young, who is at a bus stop and recalls what Gang-woon said. Just then, Hari comes and says, "Were you waiting for me?" She nods. Then the two of them come home, where Ha-young says to her, "I helped you so much, but now it's my turn. I have a dream. Will you help me fulfill it?" Hari says to herself, "This is the right time. I should tell her that I'm not a lawyer." But these words won't come out of her mouth, and she says, "Don't worry. Your sister is with you. I'll help you completely." After hearing this, Ha-young becomes happy. Hari says to herself, "What have I said?" In the next scene, we see Chung-won, who was about to leave for a meeting, but the secretary sees that there's no air in a tire. Then they check the desk footage. They learn that the man he had argued with earlier is the one who did all this. In the next scene, we see him playing golf, but in front of him, that same man who had let the air out of the tire had been tied up, and he keeps hitting him with the ball. He comes up to him and says, "Do you think that land is yours? It doesn't belong to any of the residents. That whole area is mine. Whoever messes with my apartment, I'll kill them." In the next scene, we see Suk-jin at her home. We learn that she too has submitted an apartment's president. Her son is with her as well. We see Hae-gang and his colleague who are at home. They kept looking again and again at the application that Hae-gang is about to go submit. In-sik says, "Don't look at it so closely. It's just an application. Go and get it submitted. It's no big deal." Hae-gang then does exactly that. He comes to the management office. Ha-young is in front of him. He hands her the application, but he sees that there are other candidates' applications here too. She starts saying, "This is the first time it's happened that a single person is applying to become president. Otherwise, if you look around, everyone here has a family." Hae-gang takes his application back and says, "I'll come later." When he steps out, he starts noticing all the families around. He comes home, where In-sik wants to go to the restroom, but he yanks him back out and says, "Why didn't you tell me before that a person who has no family and applies to become president is bound to lose?" But In-sik says, "I didn't know because a lot of people there lived alone. I thought you'd win." Then they all start thinking about how they can make a fake family. Someone rings the doorbell. It's the wedding photo. Hae-gang looks at Hari and says, "Fine, she'll be my wife." Then Hae-gang comes to meet Hari. He learns that she isn't a lawyer at all. She works as a consultant. Hari was talking to a man downstairs who had sexually assaulted a woman. He'd touched her in a car. She starts saying to him, "The fault is yours. You should apologize to her." But the man says, "You're a woman. That's why you're taking her side." He starts arguing with her, but Hari gives him 2 or 3 slaps. The boss is right nearby, watching everything. The man was about to raise his hand at her, but Hae-gang grabs his hand and says, "I need to talk to you first." But the boss takes Hari inside and says, "Your behavior will not fly anymore. You'll have to resign." Hari has no option. She packs up her things and comes out. She starts talking to her friend. However, Hae-gang is right behind her. He says to Hari, "What do you want?" In the next scene, we see the two of them at a restaurant, where Hari says to him, "How did you find out that my name is Hari and where I work?" Hae-gang gets straight to the point and says, "Become my wife for 3 months. You'll get money for it. But Hadi refuses. Then she starts to leave. But then Hae-gang had said, for this I'll give you 100 million, and 30 million you'll get instantly. Hadi starts thinking, with this money I can fulfill my sister's dream. Then she says to him, fine, it's a deal. In the next scene, we see Hae-gang come to In-sik and say, to become president, I need a family. So I want you to become my father until I become president. If you do this, I'll release your dad. In-sik says, fine. Will I get any bonus later? Hae-gang says, yes, you'll be kept alive. We see Kyung-nam, who is talking on the phone with his son, Gang-bok. Hae-gang comes in too. The child calls him uncle and greets him. Hae-gang talks to Kyung-nam and says, your son studies out in the countryside. He's grown up a lot, but you said you want to teach him English, so you could bring him here to an English kindergarten. On that pretext, we can meet him too, and he'll become my fake son. That way our family will be complete. In the next scene, we see everyone gathered for a family photo. They were waiting for Hadi. Hadi arrives too. Kyung-nam looks at her and says, you're a very good person. I like you. Hae-gang says, this will be your son. Hadi says, I wasn't told about this. Hae-gang had said, I'm telling you now. Then he explains that In-sik is her father-in-law. Then we see all of them have their family photo taken. At the end of the episode, we see them heading to the management office to submit the application.